If you naturally wake up early without an alarm, without forcing yourself, even on weekends, this isn't random. Maybe you've noticed it for years. While others struggle to get out of bed, you're already awake. Sometimes before the sun, sometimes before the world feels real. And maybe you wondered, why? Why does your body seem wired this way? Why does your mind feel clearer in the early hours? Why do you feel slightly different from people who thrive at night? Here's what most people don't realize. Waking up early without trying often reflects deeper psychological patterns. It's not just about discipline. It's not just about routine. By the end of this video, you may start to see that this small daily habit says more about your personality, emotional wiring, and even your past than you expected. And there's one surprising layer to this that most people completely overlook. Waking up early naturally is often framed as productivity, success, and high performance. But psychologically, it usually signals something deeper. Our sleep patterns are influenced by biology, yes, but also by temperament, stress regulation, cognitive style, and environmental conditioning. When someone consistently wakes up early without effort, it often connects to patterns such as high internal regulation, anticipatory thinking, a need for psychological control, sensitivity to overstimulation, or responsibility developed early in life. This behavior is rarely accidental. It is often part of a larger psychological structure. And importantly, it's not inherently better. It simply reflects a specific internal configuration. Let's explore what that configuration can look like. One common pattern behind natural early risers is a strong internal clock combined with high self-regulation. Some people rely on external pressure to structure their lives. Deadlines, alarms, reminders. But early risers often operate differently. Their system is internally structured. Even without external enforcement, their body anticipates the day. This often correlates with people who prefer predictability. They may not consciously seek control, but they feel calmer when they know what's coming. For example, they might wake up early not because they have to, but because their mind subtly prepares for the day ahead. It's as if part of them is already organizing tomorrow before it begins. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't always about ambition. Sometimes it's about anxiety management. Waking up early can create a sense of head start, a psychological buffer, extra time before demands begin. For some, those quiet early hours feel safer. Another pattern often present is cognitive clarity in low-stimulation environments. Early mornings are quiet, fewer messages, fewer expectations, less noise. People who wake up early naturally often have minds that become easily overstimulated by social or environmental chaos. They may not describe themselves as sensitive, but they process deeply. In the early morning, their thoughts feel organized, clean. Later in the day, external demands can fragment attention. Interruptions feel heavier. Decisions feel noisier. This might surprise you, but many early risers aren't necessarily hyper-energetic people. In fact, some are quite introspective. They simply function best when the world is still. There's another layer to this. Many natural early risers display anticipatory thinking. They think ahead, plan ahead, worry ahead. Even if they appear calm, their mind often runs simulations of the future. What needs to be done? What might go wrong? What should I prepare for? This doesn't mean they're anxious in a dramatic way. It's often subtle, quiet, but waking up early can reflect a mind that is already slightly activated before the day starts. And most people don't realize this. Sometimes the body wakes up because the mind is already on. Now, let's address a common misconception. People assume early risers are automatically disciplined, superior, or more successful. That's not necessarily true. Some wake early because their nervous system struggles to fully relax. Others wake early because they developed independence at a young age. If someone grew up in an environment where they had responsibilities early, helping siblings, managing tasks, staying alert, their body may have adapted to wake sooner. When you repeatedly learn that being ready matters, your nervous system internalizes readiness, and that pattern can persist for decades. But that's not the whole story. There's also a connection between early waking and identity. Some people quietly associate waking early with being responsible, capable, or ahead, even without consciously trying. They may feel slightly uncomfortable sleeping late, as if it contradicts who they believe they are. This identity reinforcement strengthens a behavior over time. It becomes part of self-concept. I'm someone who starts early. And once a behavior becomes identity-based, it no longer requires effort. But there's something deeper happening underneath all of this, and this part is often overlooked. Waking up early without trying can sometimes reflect a subtle tension between control and rest. For some individuals, true relaxation feels unfamiliar. Sleeping in requires surrender. It requires letting go. If someone has learned, consciously or unconsciously, that vigilance equals safety, their body may resist deep morning rest. This doesn't mean something is wrong. It simply means the nervous system may have adapted to stay slightly alert. On the other hand, this same pattern often comes with hidden strength. Early risers frequently develop strong self-trust. They rely less on external chaos. They create their own rhythm. Those early hours can become a space for reflection, planning, creativity, or simply silence. In generational terms, many adults who wake early grew up during periods that value productivity and responsibility. Messages like "don't waste a day" or "get a head start" shape internal rhythms. Over time, these values move from external expectations into automatic behavior. But here's the balance. Waking early can reflect emotional stability and self-regulation. It can also reflect hyper-awareness. The key difference lies in how the person feels when they wake up, calm and clear, or slightly tense and scanning. That distinction matters. There's also a personality angle. Many early risers score high in conscientious traits: structured thinking, reliability, follow-through. But interestingly, some early risers are not structured in obvious ways. Instead, they value solitude. Morning becomes protected time, before the world makes requests, before expectations arrive, before social energy is required. For these individuals, waking early is less about achievement and more about emotional breathing room. And that's a powerful distinction. So, what does it really mean if you wake up early without trying? It likely means your internal system is tuned toward anticipation, structure, or psychological readiness. It may reflect deep processing, a preference for quiet clarity, a subtle need for control, or a habit shaped long ago by responsibility. It doesn't automatically mean you're more disciplined. It doesn't automatically mean you're stressed. It simply suggests your nervous system prefers starting before the world fully wakes up. And that preference tells a story about how you regulate emotion, how you prepare for uncertainty, how you relate to time itself. If you've always wondered why your mornings feel different, now you may have part of the answer. If this felt familiar, you're not alone. Many patterns we consider small habits are actually reflections of deeper wiring. Feel free to share in the comments if you naturally wake up early and how it feels for you. And if you're curious about other everyday behaviors that reveal hidden psychological patterns, consider subscribing. There may be more layers to explore than you think.